I am calling the special meeting of the San Clemente City Council to order. The date is December 21st, 2020. Madam Clerk, can you call the roll?
Councilmember Duncan.
Here.
Councilmember Ferguson.
Here.
Councilmember Knobloch.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem James.
Here.
Mayor Ward.
Present.
First item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance.
Mr. Knobloch will be giving us the Pledge of Allegiance, leading.
Okay, please join after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Liberty and justice for all.
The first item on the agenda is oral communications. Members of the public who wish to provide comments to be read at council meetings on matters that are within the jurisdiction of the city of San Clemente, but not separately listed on the agenda, may provide their comments at this time. And we do have a couple comments.
Okay.
First comment is from Jennifer Massey. Reminder, let's see here, restrict e-bikes from the beach trail, require licenses for e-bikes, require helmets for e-bike riders of all ages. Reminder to all bike riders to notify people they're passing by letting pedestrians, including those on the beach trail, which side they're passing on. The next comment is from Brad Malamud. The council authorized Scott Smith to negotiate settlement of censure, but violated the Brown Act by failing to report out the vote as required under Government Code Section 54957, another act of bad faith and abuse of process. Resolution of potential litigation is in the council's court. The censure process lacked even minimal due process. Scott Smith and Christina Talley did not recuse themselves as required by law. The censure hearing and vote is either void or voidable because Scott Smith allowed the council to replace the mayor as presiding officer, even though Government Code Section 36802 provides the mayor, not Mr. James, shall preside at all council meetings. There's no exception. There were multiple due process and other violations. If the council is serious, it must remove Scott Smith from the negotiations. Resolution might be possible if the council reverses course and overturns the censure, but we will no longer communicate with Scott Smith. Nothing except litigation will occur unless Scott Smith is removed or recuses himself from the settlement process. The council has the opportunity to do the right thing in January when it meets. On a personal note, Ms. Bade, Ms. Campanolo, Ms. Ward, Mr. James, Mr. Duncan, and Mr. Knobloch, have a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and I hope 2021 brings you prosperity, health, and happiness. Brad Malamud, former resident and San Clemente business owner. And that's all I have for oral communications.
Next item on the agenda is a request for you to waive reading in full of all resolutions and ordinances.
So moved.
Second.
Councilmember Duncan.
Aye.
Councilmember Ferguson.
Aye.
Councilmember Knobloch.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem James.
Aye.
And Mayor Ward.
Aye.
The next item relates to an amicus curiae in support of Sheriff Don Barnes' challenge to an order releasing 1,800 inmates from the Orange County Jail.
Can I ask the city attorney to just briefly discuss why we're here today, what this entails?
Yeah, Mayor and Council, Scott Smith, City Attorney. The Orange County Superior Court heard a demand from the American Civil Liberties Union that dealt with the alleged non-compliance of the Orange County Jail with state and county health guidelines relating to COVID-19. The ACLU sought a court order releasing up to 50% of the prisoners from the Orange County jail facility. That order actually was issued by the court on December 11th. The sheriff immediately filed an appeal of that order, and in so doing sought to have Orange County cities assist in providing friend of the court briefs or friend of the court support to the sheriff in his appeal of that order. The sheriff anticipates filing his pleadings in that case, his brief, tomorrow. The city of Newport Beach volunteered to step forward and write a friend of the court brief that is before you today. Well, it was released last night and available today. The sheriff and the county have asked the cities participating in the amicus to address two issues, and I'll just summarize those really quickly. They're in the draft brief written by Newport Beach. The issues are these: one, that a court cannot give a ministerial directive to the sheriff about how to comply with its order. The court can find that there are conditions relating to safety and Fourth Amendment rights in the jails, but that the details of what to do with that, up to and including opening the doors to half the inmates, has to be left to the sheriff as a ministerial duty. The second point that the sheriff has raised is that is the observation and the argument that the reason that COVID infections are increasing so significantly in the jail is that they're increasing that significantly in the population at large. And so the Newport Beach's brief that we would suggest you join raises that argument, that really there's nothing, unfortunately, of note that distinguishes what's going on inside the jail from outside the jail. And in fact, prisoners that are there with the medical and other attention that they're needing actually might be in better shape than if they were suddenly released to their own devices to the street without those programs and medical attention. So this is before tonight. The city of Newport Beach has asked that participating cities assist in providing $1,000 to the fund that it's using to have council prepare this brief. And our recommendation is that you authorize that expenditure and authorize me to authorize them to add San Clemente's name to the friend of the court brief that they expect to file tomorrow morning. That's it.
Mayor Ward, we do have comments whenever you're ready for them.
Okay, council, do you want to hear the public comments first before we discuss?
Please.
Okay, Joe, go ahead, Madam Clerk.
A first comment is anonymous. The city should hesitate to join the sheriff's appeal because the court's order is not as extreme as the staff and the sheriff suggest. First, the court ordered social distancing and that jail staff not only be provided with masks, but be required to wear them. Second, the court did not unconditionally order release. Instead, at footnote 4 on page 29 of its order, the court emphasized the court uses the term release or released to mean discharged detained individuals from the physical confines of the Orange County Jail, not necessarily released from all forms of custody. Release options and conditions remain in the discretion of the sheriff. Next comment is from E. Scott Minter. I'm horrified to discover that the council is considering joining an amicus brief in support of our irresponsible sheriff, Don Barnes. Let's review for a moment the findings of the court that led to the order in question. A, Sheriff Barnes has exercised deliberate indifference to medically vulnerable individuals in his custody in violation of the law. B, Sheriff Barnes has failed to provide reasonable accommodations for disabled individuals in his custody in violation of the law. C, in his failure to act in accordance with the law, Sheriff Barnes has abused his authority. Indeed, given the evidence presented in these findings of the court, it has become clear that Sheriff Barnes himself may be as much a criminal as anybody in his custody. The sheriff's blatant culpability is a more than sufficient reason not to proceed with the proposed filing, but it's not the only one. At a time when every ICU bed in Orange County is filled with new cases at a record 4,600 per day and climbing at a skyrocketing fatality rate, why would this council waste time and tax dollars focusing on anything else? It is disgraceful that this council continues to tolerate restaurants and retail outlets in San Clemente operating in flagrant violation of the court-tested legal orders of the governor and the State Department of Health. And not only does the council fail to take action, it actually contemplates further endangering San Clemente residents by supporting a sitting sheriff who actively and illegally resists engaging with the greatest threat to public safety in our lifetimes. I urge this council to decline to support a sheriff who has repeatedly abused his authority, and to redirect its attention instead to stemming the spread of coronavirus and preventing the suffering and death it leaves in its wake. Respectfully, Scott Mentor. Next comment is from Diane Gale. I strongly recommend this council decline supporting a sheriff who has repeatedly abused his authority and to redirect its attention instead to stemming the spread of the coronavirus and preventing the suffering and death it presents for the community. At a time where there is 0% capacity in ICU beds in Orange County, why would this council waste time and tax dollars focusing on anything else? The council continues to tolerate restaurants and retail outlets in San Clemente, violating the governor's orders and the State Department of Health. Not only does the council fail to take action, it actually contemplates further endangering San Clemente residents by supporting a sitting sheriff who actively and illegally resists engaging with the greatest threat to public safety in our lifetime. Stop the madness and start thinking of protecting the citizens of San Clemente. Sincerely, Diane Gale. Next comment is from Jim Dahl. Please support Sheriff Barnes' opposition of Superior Court judge telling him to early release inmates of the Orange County Jail. The next email is from OC Criminals. Dear Council, we are in direct opposition to the Sheriff Barnes' challenge of our release. It's Amazon season, and because of our lockdown, we haven't been able to do our holiday shopping. Thank you for your consideration. Kind regards, OC Criminals. P.S. We like train horns. And the final comment is from Zin Wu. Dear Mayor and Council members, my name is Zin Wu. I'm a resident of San Clemente. Please accept this letter as my support to city's efforts to join another city to file an amicus curiae brief to support the appeal of Orange County Superior Court's order to reduce OC Jail's inmate population by 50% at this turning point of the pandemic. The court made its decision based on a few evidences it established. As part of the factual basis, evidence 5 states that absent a vaccine or other effective treatment, the best way to slow and prevent the spread of the virus is through social or physical distancing. This fact has not changed. The availability of COVID-19 vaccines makes it possible to address court's fundamental concern without demanding social or physical distancing in the jail. The ongoing implementation of vaccines and high priority of inmates to receive them mean that the writ of mandate will no longer be necessary as long as inmates are inoculated promptly. This material change in circumstance warrants a reconsideration of the court order, therefore. Even if the decision is not reversed, a stay is appropriate to allow the authority to correct the alleged situation at the same time to ensure the public safety of law-abiding citizens of Orange County and the city of San Clemente. I commend and thank you for your quick action to address this issue. Please support Sheriff Barnes on this important matter. Thank you, Zin Wu. And that's all I have for public comments.
Okay, thank you. So council, is there anyone that would like to make any comments on this?
Certainly.
Go
I'm going to support this. I will enthusiastically support Sheriff Barnes on this. And more importantly, I'm enthusiastically supporting the tax-paying, law-abiding citizens of San Clemente. And with that, I'll just say thank you to Sheriff Barnes. We don't always see eye to eye here in San Clemente with the sheriff, but on this one, we are in lockstep with you, sir.
Councilmember Ferguson, and then Councilmember Knobloch.
Thank you. This is serious, and I just think it's nonsense what's happening. And I think we need to be unified with some of the other cities. I think there's 14, including the 2 that are filing amicus briefs on this so far, that are getting behind this. But we need to show a unified front to protect our communities. And it's just destructive. We'd see crime go up. We'll see COVID increase even further than it already has. And due to those being released, having no health care. And I suspect we'll also see homelessness spike as well in communities for those who have nowhere to go. So I'm certainly behind this and behind protecting our communities and the inmates alike. I mean, they're not going to get the treatment that they're getting in the jails. And I have confidence in the sheriff and his staff to be able to provide that adequately to those who are incarcerated. So I certainly am behind this. I do have question of the interim city manager. I'm hopeful this will be successful, this challenge. However, should the unfortunate occur, are you thinking of yet planning for what kind of resources or tools will need to be identified and funding to be able to provide Chief Manhart with those potential resources should that need arise?
Councilmember Ferguson, Mayor, and members of the City Council, in our ongoing discussions with OCSD, Orange County Sheriff's Department, we would look to them to provide any recommendations on necessary resources or proactive actions that needed to be taking place. And so I will continue to communicate with our Lieutenant Manhart on any of those needs. And if those needs exceed the budget of the Orange County Sheriff's Department contract, we would come back to the council for further direction.
Okay, thank you. I know that'll be a big challenge for us considering we just faced a $1.6 million revenue loss in the first quarter. And with things still not completely open, I suspect that's going to continue to deteriorate in terms of our revenue. So, all right, thank you.
Councilmember Knobloch.
I am in complete support of the motion. I think it's a shame that as a society we're talking about removing criminal inmates from jail at a time when our small businesses and families are in lockdown. I think it's sad. It's inappropriate. And you know, the COVID cases, number one, the cases are the case testings are very unreliable. But you know that if indeed there's a strong great number of people in the jail with COVID, we're dealing with strong young men who are probably the least at risk of any harm. This is a virus with a 99.99% lack of mortality. And I think it's crazy to open the jails when we have our citizens locked down. And regarding the conduct in the jail, I've been in the jail as a jail chaplain for around 14 years. And since March, the outside contact with the jails have been limited, have been all outside visitors have been excluded. In the rare cases where they've opened up, my experience has been that the COVID regulations are strictly enforced. Masks are required at all times. Social distancing is required at all times. There's zero contact, physical contact among the outsiders and any inmates. Even the passing of Bibles, brochures, normal paper and so forth has been completely eliminated. So I think the controls in the jail are being handled as expeditiously and properly as it can be. So I'm in support of this motion, and I hope that we have other jails. And I hope that the judges here they're involved in this case seriously think about the significance of what they're doing. And again, I couldn't be more strongly in support of this motion. Be honored to make the motion or second it if that's an opportunity. Thank you.
Okay, I would like to give the Councilmember Duncan, did you have a comment?
Yes.
Yes, go ahead.
Well, I'd like to say, you know, first of all, I share some of the commenters' concerns about the safety issues inside the jail and frankly outside the jail. We've seen a spike in COVID-19, unfortunately, but I'm very troubled by the court imposing its judgment about what to do with prisoners over that of the expertise of the Sheriff Barnes and his staff. And I have some fundamental disagreements on that end. I have a couple questions. First to the city attorney, Smith. Are there other options the court could have used to try to gain compliance other than this mandate to release a certain segment of the prisoners? It seems fairly extreme. I know that there was some other language in the order, you know, trying to gain compliance, but is there anything else? I mean, what would the court do legally to try to gain this compliance other than this stance that it's taken?
Yeah, Councilmember Duncan, Mayor and Council, the court, it is unusual for a court to prescribe something so specific as just opening the doors. Eric may be able to know more about the course of dealing between the plaintiffs in the case and the sheriff. It is really unusual for a court to cut to the chase with something so specific and so draconian. I think what the sheriff's been willing to do, and having read their papers, is to look at whatever metrics are needed in terms of physical distancing, occupancy. They've been talking about temporary shelters and annexes, and more particularly, looking at matrices for infections and infection rates. And I think the sheriff has been willing, if those are not correlating to what's going on with the general populace, to be able to work to those metrics. But for whatever reason here, and that's the point of this brief, the court blew past those and cut to a pretty extreme chase. And that's what this amicus brief focuses on.
Okay, and I'll have a question for the city manager following up on that. But first, yeah, I mean, I was troubled by the legal theory that the court can prescribe the specific course of action, again, going into the expertise of the sheriff. So for the city manager, because I'll say one thing, having practiced, amicus briefs don't usually carry a lot of weight. They're nice, they make the side feel good, but it doesn't seem like the court in a lot of cases really gives them a lot of credit. Is there another option out there, city manager's son, to show the city's disenchantment with the order other than joining the amicus brief? I'm just wondering.
Yes, Councilmember Duncan, Mayor, members of the City Council. Some cities are opting to do a letter of support that would be submitted directly to the court on this appeal.
And would that cause any expense of the city, or is that just something that we could just write separate from participating in the lawsuit?
There would be no cost. I think there's actually a template that most of the cities that are doing letters of support are circulating for the cities to use.
What other cities are those, if you know a few of them?
As of this morning, I know Seal Beach did a letter of support. I know the city of Brea did a letter of support. A number of cities are having special meetings this week in lieu of this. And so I know Dana Point has a special meeting today. I don't know where they have landed, but those are the cities off the top of my head as of this week, sir.
Thank you.
So Councilmember Duncan, I do have a list that Mr. Sun provided me earlier. Fountain Valley, Brea, Seal Beach, Garden Grove, and Rancho Santa Margarita so far have all written letters directly to the court. Some have written letters directly to Sheriff Barnes, but I think they probably should be directed to the court. So I was going to offer that option and give that out, that the council could elect to write a letter specifically addressing what we think are the issues that the sheriff has been willing and is keeping people safe and using protocols from COVID. I think it's interesting that and important for the court to note that the sheriff had over 200 cases early on in this pandemic and was able to get all the cases down to 0. So I think, that he's certainly shown he is able to use those protocols. That is something we can do. The one thing that our city manager did ask Newport Beach what the cost would be to join this brief. And because of so many other cities joining it, it would probably be about $1,000. So I just wanted to put that out there, that's probably, I don't know if we can for sure say that's our cost, Mr. Sun, but that's what Newport said to us. Is that correct?
Correct. As of this morning, the city attorney for the city of Newport Beach, Aaron Harp, the cost would be $1,000 to join the amicus brief.
Okay. So
And Mayor Ward, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I think that is something that the council that we should talk about, whether, we want to do that. I've read the brief. I think it does outline what Sheriff Barnes has done. It did not mention the 200 cases down to 0, but Sheriff Barnes' response does mention that. So, it's a matter of what I guess we want to say or how to do it. I think I think Mr. Smith could do it very fast because there is a template. and get that out today. So we can discuss that. Councilmember Ferguson, go ahead.
Thanks, Mayor Ward. There was a letter or an email sent out from Chief of Staff Raymond Grangoff just shortly before the meeting today. And just in summary, the section regarding the amicus brief, joining the amicus brief that Newport Beach has developed would be most effective, but letters of support are also helpful. And he expressed his gratitude again for those cities standing with the Sheriff's Department on this very important issue.
So Mayor Ward, I have a question of City Attorney Smith.
Go ahead.
This is not an either or thing. We can do both, can we not, Scott?
Yes, you can do both.
That's the way I would go.
So that would not be looked at negatively by the court, us doing both?
No, Mayor and Council, with the letter of support, both are effective tools, but letter of support to a court might be by the court determined to be an ex parte communication. So it's not officially part of the record like a pleading is. Again, I've seen courts open those letters and consider them, but you can't always bet on that like you can your name on an amicus brief that's part of the record.
Okay. So is there anyone that would like to make a motion for any of these options?
I'd like to make a motion. Oh, go ahead. I'll defer to you, Councilmember James. Go ahead.
No, I was going to defer to Councilmember Knobloch, who earlier said he'd like to make a motion, and I will second his motion, please.
He did that. Councilmember Knobloch, would you like to make a motion considering the comments you've heard so far? You're on mute, You're on mute.
Thank you, Mayor Ward. I'd like to make a motion that we support filing an amicus curiae brief with the court and also a letter of support to the court as well. I think the additional gravitas of a briefing with the court carries more weight than a letter, and I'd like to do both. So that's my motion, Madam Mayor.
And I'll second that.
Okay, seconded by Councilmember James. Madam Clerk, will you take the
Madam Mayor, could I just interject? Would you like to deal with the appropriation of the $1,000 right now? I think that flows from the motion. If Councilmember Knobloch would like to add that, it would be great. We could get that off to the city.
That was my intent, to include the funding to accomplish that. Thank you, Scott.
Stephen.
Okay,
My second stands.
thank you.
Councilmember Duncan,
Aye.
Councilmember Ferguson,
Aye.
Councilmember Knobloch,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem James,
Aye.
and Mayor Ward.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. Do we have any, this is oral communications part 2. Do we have any comments?
I don't, unless Deputy City Clerk Campanolo does.
Not received any additional comments.
Okay. So I'm just going to ask a quick question. We don't need to read the staff recommendation then. We just said it orally. Okay. Thank you. So is there a council member that would like to move for adjournment?
Move to adjournment.
Excuse me, Mayor Ward. I just had a comment, actually a request that I'm hoping I can have council members support me on for the January 19th meeting, to have a discussion at the January 19th meeting of opening up our council meetings to in-person meetings to the public with the necessary safety precautions in place. Since we have the AV system in place already since August. And I'd just like to have support for that discussion to occur at the meeting.
Second. Second.
Thank you.
I need to ask a question of Mr. Smith, that we don't have any council comments agendized. Is our council able to comment at this time, or do they must do that at the January meeting?
Mayor and Council, motion to include something on a future agenda is always in order, so that can happen off agenda today
Okay.
without debate.
I heard 2 comments on that. Okay. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second. That was Mr. Knobloch.
Councilmember Duncan,
Aye.
Councilmember Ferguson,
Aye.
Councilmember Noblock,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem James,
Aye.
and Mayor Ward.
Aye.
Carries 5-0.
Merry Christmas, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Yes.
Merry
Happy holidays.
Christmas.